Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. The White House scrambling to get supply chain woes under control. Today, unveiling a new plan, hopeful that new construction projects and flexible grants will help ease the pileup. 2 national emergencies extended. The Biden administration is working to keep U.S. investments from indirectly going to China's military. And it's extending an order concerning the threat Iran poses to U.S. national security. An update on the Rittenhouse trial. After 5 days of testimony, the prosecution rests its case, making way for the defense to call up witnesses. Doctors say that vaccinated individuals can still spread the virus. And not only that, in some countries, it's mostly fully vaccinated people who are dying due to COVID right now. Comcast Xfinity Internet was down today, causing nationwide outages. The company said it's restoring service and will investigate the cause. The Biden administration on Tuesday announced new actions to alleviate supply chain issues at U.S. ports, waterways, and freight networks.
So, while we're moving record amounts of goods through our ports and to shelves, we understand the frustration that Americans feel when backlogs lead to higher prices or delayed goods. So today's announcement builds on the steps we've already taken to help address the supply chain challenges we've seen globally because of that pandemic.
The plan includes, among other things, new construction projects for coastal navigation, inland waterways, and land ports of entry. It's the administration's approach to implementing the newly passed but not yet signed bipartisan infrastructure bill. It will also include flexibility for port grants through the Department of Transportation to solve supply chain disruptions. And President Biden is extending a ban that former President Trump put in place. It stops the U.S. from investing in Chinese companies that are believed to be owned by the Chinese military. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more on that and Biden's moves on Iran.
On Tuesday, Biden said the Chinese regime is increasingly exploiting capital from U.S. investments. He said Beijing is using it to modernize its military, which threatens the U.S. and its forces overseas. That's according to a letter Biden wrote to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. This letter extends the national emergency the previous administration put in place to address this threat. Former President Trump's order targeted U.S. investment firms and pension funds. It was designed to stop them from buying shares in specific Chinese firms, the ones the Defense Department says are backed by the Chinese military. Biden has extended the emergency for 1 year until November 12, 2022. Biden also extended a national emergency involving Iran that was set to expire this Sunday. It's the one then-President Jimmy Carter issued in 1979. That was in response to radical students in Tehran seizing the U.S. embassy and holding diplomats hostage. Biden said relations with Iran have not yet normalized, and so the emergency must continue. This national emergency is also extended by 1 year. Talks to revive the Iran nuclear deal are expected later this month, and during this time frame, the U.S. and other countries are expected to discuss the removal of sanctions on Iran. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today led a congressional delegation to speak at the United Nations Climate Summit in Glasgow, also known as COP26. Several House Democrats joined her. They say Biden's social welfare and climate spending bill is necessary to fight what they call a climate crisis. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
After one victory, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, another hill to climb for Democrats on Capitol Hill. They have to push President Biden's social welfare and climate spending bill to the finish line, but they assured other nations at the UN Climate Summit Tuesday that they'll deliver.
A very important meeting for the world. We know that, and we come here equipped, ready to take on the challenge.
Pelosi plans to hold a vote as soon as Congress comes back to D.C. next week. But it could be slowed down by a few fiscally conservative House Democrats who want a Congressional Budget Office report to make sure the spending numbers add up. Another challenge, will all 50 Democrats vote yes in the Senate?
We're not just back, we're different, and we are more just. And we are more open, I think, to questioning prior assumptions about what is politically possible.
A third of their spending bill, $555 billion, dedicated to clean climate. But some scientists and researchers are unconvinced that America's climate agenda will make a dent in cleaning things up, since other countries sent a message that they aren't on board. China and Russia, no shows at the summit. Pelosi says America's climate crisis is a national security issue.
We have to stop it as a national security issue, and one way to do that is to stop our dependence on fossil fuels, which exacerbate the climate crisis.
The Biden administration implemented policies to crack down on U.S. oil and gas producers.
And they end up exporting it from countries either in the Middle East, OPEC, or Russia, or China, that have horrible environmental standards. And so your emissions are going to go up, and it's more damaging to the environment.
But the question is, will America be energy independent if it switches to clean energy? Not right away. That is, unless lawmakers can make it easier to mine for rare earth minerals in the U.S. and produce solar panels and windmills on American soil. And we have talked to some Congress members here on Capitol Hill specifically about this. Their solution is to encourage investors to invest more in the clean energy industry. In this way, they hope to move America more towards energy independence at the same time they're pushing their climate agenda. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
The Biden administration is sending packets of documents to tens of thousands of illegal immigrants released into the U.S. The documents ask them to report to an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office to be processed for possible deportation. We hear from an expert about the most common likely response. Here are the details.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, confirmed to the Epoch Times that they are mailing charging documents to around 78,000 illegal immigrants released into the U.S. and not previously processed for deportation. The agency is directing them to report to their nearest ICE office. Agents will then collect fingerprints, take photos, and tell the illegal immigrants their future check-in requirements and court dates. ICE says action will be taken against those who do not appear consistent with the law and department priorities. Starting in March, border officials did not issue notices to appear to illegal border crossers. Instead, they gave them what are called notices to report. A notice to report instructs illegal immigrants to show up at an ICE office within 60 days, but does not place them in deportation proceedings. Jessica Vaughn from the Center for Immigration Studies says on Twitter, "Will be interesting to see how many letters return to sender, not to mention actually show up for court." Amy Fisher from Amnesty International USA is also concerned that the illegal immigrants may not actually be able to get the packets. She tells CBS News, "We know that when people are entering, they give CBP an address, and it's typically an address of where they know somebody in the United States. But that doesn't mean that is where they will reside." The immigration system already has a backlog of 1.4 million cases, and in fiscal year 2021, which ended in September, border agents apprehended 1.7 million illegal immigrants, an all-time high.
Another day of testimony at the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in a Wisconsin courthouse. A medical examiner testified and prosecutors rested their case. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that update.
After 5 days of testimony in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, prosecutors rest their case. Rittenhouse, the defendant, faces multiple charges, including 2 for homicide and 1 for attempted homicide. The 18-year-old defendant claims he acted in self-defense. Criminal attorney Lara Yeretsian tells me the defense can call witnesses after the prosecution rests their case.
And at this point, we've heard everything that the prosecution has, and it didn't end very well for the prosecution.
Okay, and why do you say that?
Well, the bombshell testimony that I'm referring to is the only surviving complaining witness in this case, and that's Gage Grosskreutz, who testified. And while on the stand, he actually admitted during cross that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Rittenhouse and advancing towards him, and only then did Rittenhouse shoot at him.
Some lawyers have said Grosskreuz's testimony validated Rittenhouse's self-defense claim. Rittenhouse, however, was also charged with unlawfully killing 2 men. Wisconsin criminal defense attorney Kirk Everson says prosecutors have to prove Rittenhouse's actions were unreasonable.
The prosecution has to show that Mr. Rittenhouse would have not been reasonable in his belief that he himself was in danger. In other words, was privileged to defend himself. Further, the Wisconsin statutes go slightly further, and it actually indicates that you also have really no duty to retreat.
Medical examiner Dr. Doug Kelly testified before prosecutors rested their case. Kelly performed an autopsy on the body of Joseph Rosenbaum, the first man shot by Rittenhouse. Video evidence shows Rosenbaum chasing Rittenhouse before he was shot. The defendant shot Rosenbaum 4 times. The medical examiner said Rosenbaum was within 4 feet of the shooter when he was shot. And as Rosenbaum was hit by the last 2 shots, he had his hand close to Rittenhouse's rifle, possibly even touching it. Prosecutors argued that this indicates that Rosenbaum was falling forward, while the defense attorney said Rosenbaum was lunging for the rifle. The medical examiner agreed that either explanation was plausible. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Staff members at schools in a Michigan township are experiencing negative reactions to COVID booster shots. Because of that, schools were closed on Monday. Not only staff, also school children are now getting vaccinated, but one study suggests that might not be necessary. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more.
Are you scared? It's okay, I promise.
Many people believe that vaccinated individuals don't spread the virus. That's one of the main reasons why many want to vaccinate children, even though they don't usually get severely ill after contracting COVID. But a study published by medical journal The Lancet found that ongoing transmission had occurred between vaccinated individuals.
Fully vaccinated carry similar viral loads, very high viral loads of Delta, just as much as the unvaccinated.
Epidemiologist Peter McCullough says because vaccinated people also carry and spread the virus, most vaccine mandates don't make much sense. Dr. Paul Alexander is a former epidemiologist for the WHO. He says the vaccines might actually prolong the pandemic.
But you are becoming vaccinated and running around society thinking you are fine, but you don't understand. You have massive viral loads and your symptoms are low, so you're not understanding that you're sick. This is a pandemic of the vaccinated. It is the vaccinated who are pose more of a risk.
Both doctors say that besides not preventing the spread of the virus, the vaccines aren't protecting people as much as they should. Because they were not created for the Delta variant, which is now the main strain.
Look at Israel. Israel is far ahead of the United States in vaccination. Their Delta curve is bigger than their pre-vaccination curve, and over 90% of Israelis in the hospital and dying are fully vaccinated, even with boosters.
He added that focusing treatment on those who have COVID is better than trying to vaccinate everyone. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
January 4th next year is the vaccination deadline set by the Biden administration for private employers with 100 or more workers. After that, unvaccinated workers must submit to weekly testing. But a team of lawyers from the Texas Public Policy Foundation has stepped in the way, causing an immediate halt to the federal mandate. NTD's Jason Perry spoke to the lead attorney in the case.
The Texas Public Policy Foundation on November 5th filed a lawsuit on behalf of several Texas temporary staffing companies challenging the Biden administration's private employee vaccine mandate. And on Saturday, they won when the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals temporarily blocked enforcement of the mandate, citing grave statutory and constitutional issues with the mandate. Rob Henneke is the lead attorney in this lawsuit and others against the Biden administration.
So the order issued by the Fifth Circuit on Saturday stopping the vaccine mandate, that was a nationwide order. That applied to the entire country. So right now, the vaccine mandate is not in effect. What we are hoping is that the Fifth Circuit will make that injunction permanent while the case is pending. And if the court decides to do so, then the upcoming deadlines don't matter.
Henneke says this immediate win is a great relief to the millions of businesses that are concerned about what effect the mandate will have on their employees.
So for the time being, the mandate has been stopped by the court while the litigation progresses, because part of the strategy of the Biden administration that we've seen during the pandemic has been to impose these unconstitutional mandates knowing that by the time the court case would be over, everybody would have complied because of the threat of enforcement.
He says the ultimate goal of the vaccine mandate is to force vaccinations on private American citizens under the threat of losing their jobs.
So fundamentally, what's inherent in our Constitution is the right to be left alone and the right to have individual autonomy. And so that's what this case is fighting about. It's fighting about the right of the American citizens to be able to have control over their body and to fight back against an effort by the federal government to force them to make a permanent change through a medical procedure that they don't want.
The federal government responded on Monday, and the Texas Public Policy Foundation was slated to reply Tuesday evening in hopes that the mandate won't be enforced while the case is pending. Jason Perry, NTD News.
And now we hear a woman's experience of navigating complex medical choices in these changing times. Much of her husband's fate, it seems, hangs in the balance. And it's not because of a changing medical diagnosis. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
He knew he was going to lose his job because of this.
Gina Smith is a congressional candidate in Texas and the wife of a federal law enforcement officer. Her husband served in the Marines and was injured in Iraq in 2004.
He was hit by an IED, and he's missing a kidney, a spleen, part of a pancreas, part of his leg. He's had some strokes. And when he was recovering, or after he got hit by the IED, he was in a coma for a little while.
After the Marines, he joined a federal law enforcement agency and has been working there for the last 10 years. He now falls under the upcoming vaccine mandate for federal workers. But with his medical conditions, he first checked with his doctor to see if he should get the vaccine.
His doctor said, "No, I don't. I think that you need to wait until there's more research, because we don't know how it's going to affect some of these different areas of your body that have been affected by blast trauma."
Smith says her husband submitted his paperwork for a medical exemption over 2 months ago, but he hasn't heard anything back yet. A physician recently told Smith it takes about 6 months for medical exemptions to go through, but the deadline to be vaccinated is November 22nd.
He would lay his life down today, any given day, because that's what he believes in. He loves this country. Even if people don't agree with him, don't agree with what he's doing, he will serve and protect the homeland until his very last breath.
She recommends people to visit fedsformedfreedom.org if you want to support federal employees who do not want to lose their jobs because of health conditions or medically informed decisions. We reached out to the agency her husband works at and asked if they will allow medical exemptions for the vaccine mandate, and we haven't heard back yet. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Comcast and Xfinity users experienced nationwide outages from Monday night to Tuesday morning, affecting internet, TV, and phones. Starting on Monday night, Comcast experienced nationwide outages across several states, primarily along the West Coast. Xfinity Internet experienced a major outage in the San Francisco Bay Area. It affected over 54,000 customers. On Tuesday, Xfinity tweeted, "Some customers experienced intermittent service disruptions as a result of a network issue. We have addressed the issue and service is now restoring for impacted customers as we continue to investigate the root cause. We apologize to those who were affected." The Marin County Sheriff asked that people not call 911, but instead call their internet service provider. And coming up, a couple is filing a lawsuit against a California fertility center. The reason? An in vitro fertilization mix-up led to them giving birth to another family's baby. The Texas governor wants pornographic and other obscene materials out of public schools. He's asking state education agencies to set standards for instructional materials. And winter is just around the corner, and New Yorkers have already started to have fun. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News. A California couple is suing a fertility center for mixing up their embryo with another couple's. When they found out, they had to swap children. One of the couples says carrying the wrong babies has left lasting trauma.
Alexander and I are devastated. We missed an entire year of our daughter's life.
A lawsuit was filed Monday in Los Angeles, where two California couples gave birth to each other's children after a mix-up in a fertility center. They swapped their infants after raising the children for months.
I didn't get to experience being pregnant with her or birthing her. We missed her entire newborn period. We never saw our baby's entrance into the world or cuddled her in her first seconds of life.
The babies, both girls, were born a week apart in September 2019. The Cardinals said they had immediate suspicions that their newborn wasn't actually theirs, as the child had a darker skin tone than they do. But they soon let go of those concerns, falling in love with the baby and still trusting the in vitro fertilization process and their doctors. DNA tests confirmed the mix-up a few months later. Both families say the trauma is enormous.
The daughter we raised and bonded with was gone after months of love and affection. There's no way to describe the pain that we've been through. The struggle to guide our older daughter through losing the little sister she fell in love with.
The couple's lawsuit was brought against California's Center for Reproductive Health and its owner, Dr. Elleran Moore, accusing them of medical malpractice, breach of contract, negligence, and fraud.
We thought that we were working within a very professional industry. We trusted people. We trusted these people. And we never even knew that something like this could happen. It wasn't even on our radar. How could this happen? But now we realize that the fertility industry is a mess.
The two other parents involved wish to remain anonymous. According to the attorney representing all four parents, the other couple is planning a similar lawsuit in the coming days. Both couples are now making an effort to stay in each other's lives and forge a larger family.
The Texas governor is asking education agencies in his state to take action against what he called pornographic and obscene books in schools. This comes after parents in two school districts complained about several books with pornographic content. NTD's Allison Lee brings us more.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent a letter to the Texas Education Agency, the State Board of Education, and the Texas State Library and Archives Commission Monday, asking them to set statewide standards to make sure public schools and school libraries don't contain pornography or other obscene content. The governor writes, these standards must ensure transparency about the materials being taught in the classroom and offered in school libraries. They must also ensure that our schools have an appropriate and transparent process, which includes parents and community members to vet schools and library materials before they are used. The governor first asked the Texas Association of School Boards to do the job last week, but the association refused, saying they don't have the authority to set standards. Abbott disagrees, saying the School Boards Association has attempted to wash its hands clean of the issue by abdicating any and all responsibilities in the matter. The Texas governor gives two examples of parents finding out about obscene content in school libraries. The Keller Independent School District recently removed a book from a school library after complaints the book contained pornographic drawings. And the Leander Independent School District recently removed several books from classrooms, including a book that describes overtly sexual acts. The governor says these materials have absolutely no place in the Texas public education system and that parents are rightfully outraged. Allison Lee, NTD News.
And as supply chain disruptions make it difficult to get products and presents on the shelves for the holidays, what happens to all the products that don't make it on time? NTD's Evelyn Lee takes a look.
The supply chain bottleneck has products stuck at the port, but what happens when they make it to the shelves? Now analysts say the supply chain issues could actually lead to big discounts in the next months. Experts point out that it's not really a supply problem.
It's not like there's a shortage. It's just we have to move the commodities from where they're at to where they need to be.
But analysts at BMO say many products will miss their intended season. When they do eventually hit the market, they'll end up being discounted. The problems started with manufacturing issues, but now BMO says the problems are mostly in the freight, trail, and trucking industries. And because of these delays, retailers are over-ordering and panic buying. They hope this will give them a chance of being fully stocked. BMO says if it really is just a supply chain slowdown, not a shutdown, it will just be a matter of time before those products will hit the shelves and drive up promotions. But until then, retailers first need to get over the global supply chain bottleneck. That's happening amid a surge in demand and a labor shortage.
We need to get more people into those warehouses to move things. We're in a labor issue right now. We have a lot of people who want to hire people, but people who don't want to go work.
Jonathan Savoie, the CEO of a supply chain technology company, says over-ordering is not the best way to navigate the supply chain crisis. Not only does it put extra strain on the logistics providers, retailers risk ending up with leftover stock after the holidays. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Winter is coming, and good news for fun-seeking New Yorkers. Ice rinks are back, and so is ice dancing. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more.
It's still almost 70 degrees in New York City, but ice skating lovers can't wait to return as outdoor ice rinks open up. Ice Theater of New York, an artistic figure skating company, is bringing lunchtime pop-up concerts to the ice rink at Bryant Park.
So it's just a very cool feeling to have all those people cheering in real life.
Many ice dancers have not been able to perform since early 2020. But this year's winter, they're back with more opportunities.
Our tour got shut down in Germany, unfortunately, during COVID. Right now, it's very exciting, lots of adrenaline. It's wonderful, actually. I feel like all of this energy has been balled up and really it's now able to release itself on the ice. So.
Una and Gage Brown, both under 20, have been spending dozens of hours practicing every week. Their hard work now pays off.
So while we also want to challenge our audience a little bit, make them see skating in a different way, in an artistic way, we also want to give opportunities to young, up-and-coming competitive skaters.
We want to see how much joy we bring to the ice, and hopefully that can affect them in some way to bring them joy as well. Yeah. Contagious joy.
Joyful as it is to watch, many choose to come onto the ice themselves to enjoy a taste of the upcoming winter.
Skating appeals to the Peter Pan in us. We love to glide and fly, whether it's in our dreams or in the medium of ice skating.
In addition to Bryant Park, the group is also performing at the rinks at Rockefeller Center, Brookfield Place, Riverbank State Park, and more.
So what a wonderful place to perform with such a big audience and the beautiful air of New York.
These pop-up performances will continue through this and next week at the rink at Bryant Park. And what's better, the rink will also be open for skating. Reporting in New York City, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Coming up, California Governor Gavin Newsom finally makes a public appearance after 12 days. The governor attended a conference and said his absence was due to family obligations. And a World War II veteran turned 100 years old. Los Angeles city and county leaders attended his birthday party and presented him with cards and certificates. More details in just a moment on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
With tens of thousands of petitions submitted to recall San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin, the DA is now officially forced into a recall election. On Tuesday, the San Francisco Department of Elections confirmed a special election for the recall. It will be on the next ballot in next June's statewide primary. Residents blame Boudin for the city's rising crime. Last month, recall organizers submitted over 83,000 signatures to election officials, surpassing the minimum 51,000 needed for a recall. And California Governor Gavin Newsom made his first public appearance since his nearly 2-week absence from the public. Newsom's office confirmed that he had attended a wedding over the weekend. NTD's Cynthia Kai with the details.
California Governor Gavin Newsom made his first public appearance since a 12-day public absence. Newsom joined California Forward's Leadership Council to speak at the 2021 California Economic Summit on Tuesday. During the conference, he said he canceled his trip to the United Nations conference in Scotland to spend time with his family and to work at the state capitol all last week.
And, mom and dad missing Halloween. For them, it's like worse than Christmas, missing Christmas. And I woke up that next morning with something that's probably familiar to a lot of parents, that knot in your stomach, that I had no damn choice. I had to cancel that trip.
Newsom's previous public appearance was on October 27th after receiving his booster shot. However, according to a Vogue article on Monday, Newsom attended a wedding ceremony at San Francisco City Hall on Saturday, November 6th. Pictures by Jose Villa captured Newsom and his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, at the wedding. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and San Francisco Mayor London Breed were also in attendance. The governor's office confirmed in a statement to KCBS Radio that Newsom and his wife went to Ivy Getty's wedding ceremony. The bride, Ivy Love Getty, is an artist and model. She is one of the heiresses to the Getty family oil fortune and granddaughter of Gordon Getty, a San Francisco billionaire who has contributed to Newsom and other Democratic politicians. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
5 million email addresses and 2 million names have been leaked. On Monday, the popular stock trading app Robinhood announced a security breach that occurred last Wednesday. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Based on their investigation, the Silicon Valley company said the attack is contained and believes that no Social Security, bank account, or debit card numbers were exposed. Neither were there any financial losses. They indicated that an unauthorized party got access into their system by social engineering or manipulating a customer support employee via phone. A cybersecurity expert told NTD that he suspects an inside job.
If that information was given to a third party through one of their employees, that sounds like it could be an insider issue, meaning that somebody who works for the company is working for nefarious third parties.
He also said the company's statement doesn't reveal concrete details based on the terminology.
Because of the way they worded that statement, I wouldn't take anything in there for factual at this point.
The company said that the hacker demanded extortion money. Robinhood is continuing to investigate the incident with Mandiant, an outside security firm. Robinhood told NTD they have no further details to share at this time. As for customers' email accounts, the company suggests using a unique password and to double-check who is sending emails. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Veterans Day is coming up, and it's even more meaningful when it's celebrated with a birthday. A World War II veteran turned 100 years old this year. Here's NTD's Eileen Eng with more.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
World War II veteran James Bradley celebrated his 100th birthday in Orange County, Los Angeles. He received certificates of recognition and birthday cards from various leaders. He also received a flag as a token of appreciation for his service.
And all the veterans, we would like to present this flag to you.
He is one of the few remaining World War II veterans, and on behalf of a grateful nation, the community came out today to say thank you and to say happy birthday.
Bradley served in the Normandy invasion, also known as D-Day, in 1944. As a member of the 926th Signal Battalion, he installed and repaired communication lines to ensure constant communication and the war's success. He was also responsible for overseeing communication lines to Berlin, which were often used by Presidents Roosevelt and Truman during the war.
And I mean, he's been as strong as an oak and sturdy as mahogany. And yeah, he's taught us to be honest in our life. He's honest to a fault. And I'm glad he's my father. God gave me this man. I'm thankful.
It's very important to have these celebrations. As I say, the number of World War II veterans is declining. We're working very hard to bring a cemetery in Orange County to fittingly reward their service. But in the meantime, the few that are left, we absolutely need to make sure they know that they are not forgotten, that they are very much appreciated, and we thank them for the liberty that we enjoy today.
Bradley has been honored for his excellent service numerous times. He is active in numerous conferences for veterans and teaches world history to school children in France. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
That's amazing.
This Veterans Day marks the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, one of the nation's most treasured and sacred sites. And to commemorate the anniversary, organizers are departing from tradition by opening the tomb's plaza to the public. Here's the story.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier Plaza in Arlington National Cemetery opens to the public on Tuesday for the first time in decades. For 2 days only, all are welcome to pay their respects and lay flowers in front of the tomb. Before now, this was an honor only reserved for presidents. But this Veterans Day is especially significant. It marks the memorial's 100th anniversary. On November 11, 1921, the remains of an unidentified World War I soldier were buried below the tomb. Over 90,000 people came to pay their respects at the Capitol Rotunda before the body was taken to Arlington National Cemetery in a grand military procession. Since then, the remains of unidentified soldiers from World War II and the Korean War have been added to the tomb. For many families, this grave is the only one they have to remember their loved ones lost at war. Over the last 100 years, the tomb has come to represent all of America's fallen heroes. Wednesday between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern is the last opportunity to see the tomb up close. Arlington National Cemetery is encouraging those wanting to come and pay their respects to register online.
Coming up, how Beijing has been collecting Americans' DNA information and why this data is especially attractive for the Chinese regime. Germany is taking actions to ensure safety and stability in the Indo-Pacific. For the first time in 20 years, Germany has sent a warship to Japan. We'll have more in a moment on NTD News. Two U.S. senators are trying to close one of the loopholes that allow Beijing to get Americans' health data. For years, Beijing has been able to collect Americans' DNA information through both legal and illegal means. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more on that.
Two U.S. senators are pushing for a bill that will make it harder for Beijing to get its hands on Americans' personal health data. Before we get to the details of the bill, here's the important background. The Chinese regime has been collecting large sets of data on Americans, especially sensitive health data. And Beijing has been doing it through both legal and illegal means. One of the legal avenues is through buying U.S. firms that handle health data. Like in 2013, China's BGI Group bought an American genomic sequencing firm. And in 2015, another Chinese company bought U.S. firm Nextcode Health. This is one of the loopholes the new bill aims to close. Currently, a U.S. government agency called CFIUS is guarding against these foreign investment deals. If the agency suspects a deal could threaten America's national security, it can recommend that the president block the deal. Right now, if foreign companies want to buy American firms that handle personal data, they are not required to report the move to CFIUS before cutting the deal. It seeks to give CFIUS the power to make companies declare these actions before completing the transaction. Senators Marco Rubio and Raphael Warnock introduced the measure. But foreign investment isn't the only way Beijing can collect Americans' health data. The regime has also been stealing it. One of the most famous examples came in 2015 when Chinese hackers stole health data on over 70 million Americans from health insurer Anthem. The stolen data included names, health identification numbers, social security numbers, and income information. Another important piece of health data Beijing has been collecting is Americans' DNA. DNA is extremely valuable information for Beijing. That's because it provides intimate details about its owner, like whether they're inclined toward addiction or at risk of getting cancer. A U.S. intelligence report says if Beijing gains this information about an individual and can also identify the person, it'd be easier for Beijing to target him or her for manipulation or extortion. For example, data associated with an embarrassing addiction or mental illness could be leveraged for blackmail. Some individuals are also more likely to be targeted than others, like diplomats, politicians, high-ranking federal officials, or military leadership. The report also says Americans' health data may be particularly attractive to Beijing, partly because the U.S. population is more ethnically diverse. And also, unlike other nations, the U.S. has relatively loose control over its health data, so it's easier to get a hold of. Aside from theft and foreign investment, Chinese companies can also get health data through forming business partnerships. Here's how it works. American hospitals and universities are always on the lookout for low-cost genomic sequencing services, and Chinese firms can always offer competitive pricing because they are backed by government subsidies. This opens the door for Chinese firms to get American patients' health data. At least 15 Chinese firms have been able to access American patients' genetic data through providing genomic services. Back on Chinese soil, if Beijing decides it wants data from these companies, they literally cannot say no. They are required by law to comply.
Germany has sent a warship to Japan for the first time in 20 years, joining a mission to ensure safety and stability in the Indo-Pacific. It comes amid territorial disputes and a changing military balance in the region. Here's more.
The chief of the German Navy on Tuesday said the dispatch of a warship to the Indo-Pacific shows Germany's concern for peace in the region, hinting at but not naming China. He said territorial disputes and a changing military balance could cause extensive impact beyond Asia. Vice Admiral Kai Achim Schombach told a press conference the warship will pass through the South China Sea to demonstrate its right to sail there without interference.
The South China Sea is a global common. That is a sea that belongs to everyone, so it cannot be taken possession of or claimed by anyone if we abide by the international world order.
Schombach was in Tokyo to mark the German warship Bryant's port call in Japan. It's the first German warship to visit Japan in 20 years. Dignitaries from both countries spoke on board.
The Indo-Pacific is one of the strategically most important regions of the world. Important decisions over freedom, peace and prosperity in the world are being made here. Deploying our frigate to the Indo-Pacific makes clear that Germany stands up for our common values.
The Japanese defense minister said the frigate's visit shows Germany is determined to be involved in the peace and security in the region.
This determination will be widely acknowledged. It greatly contributes to the realization of a free and open Indo-Pacific. I hope this will extend to other European countries.
One of the Bryant's key missions in the area is to monitor North Korean ships to ensure they abide by a UN Security Council resolution. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
Germany followed the U.S. and U.K. in sending warships to the Indo-Pacific. That's as the West weighs how to deal with the Chinese Communist Party's coercive military moves, which include threatening Taiwan with airplanes and building artificial islands in disputed waters. And today is the 32nd anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Germany is marking the event with a series of commemorations. The wall had divided East Berlin and West Berlin for 28 years, from 1961 to 1989. Let's take a look at the history of the wall.
After World War II, the Allied forces divided Germany into 4 occupation zones. But because Berlin, the capital, was in the Soviet zone, it was also divided into 4 occupation zones. The 3 zones controlled by the US, the UK, and France later became known as West Germany, and the Soviet sector became known as East Germany. With the help of the Soviet Union, the East German Communist Party established a dictatorship in 1949. In the early years of the Cold War, an estimated 3.7 to 4 million people fled from communist East Germany to free West Germany. By 1961, East Germany had lost 1/6 of its population. To prevent more people from fleeing, the East German Communist Party started to build border walls around West Berlin in 1961. The Berlin Wall would become a symbol of the division between communism and the free world. East German border troops were asked to shoot people to prevent them from crossing the wall. At least 140 people were killed at the wall in the 28 years. On November 9, 1989, the East German regime announced that all East German citizens could visit West Germany and West Berlin. Crowds of East Germans crossed and climbed onto the wall. Some began to tear it down. The demolition of the wall was officially completed in November 1990. The fall of the Berlin Wall paved the way for German reunification and marked the beginning of the fall of communism in Eastern Europe.
France views nuclear energy as central to global climate plans being hashed out at COP26 talks in Glasgow. Not only does France get 70% of its energy from nuclear, it's also one of the leaders in the nuclear waste industry. NTD's Neil Woodrow looks at how France deals with its nuclear waste.
As nations plot out the world's future energy mix at the Glasgow climate talks, nuclear power is a central sticking point. Some prominent climate scientists are in support. They point out how nuclear power stations have avoided emitting billions of tons of carbon dioxide by offsetting fossil fuel combustion. Critics point to the issue of nuclear waste, some of which will remain radioactive for thousands of years to come.
The waste is a central question in nuclear energy, as we end up having to manage waste for tens, hundreds of thousands of years, which raises moral questions about what we're leaving for future generations.
Here in eastern France, near Soulaine-Douai, a steady stream of lorries brings nuclear waste into France's radioactive waste storage site. The lorries are repeatedly checked, wiped and scanned for leaks. A spokesperson for French radioactive waste management agency ANDRA says the safety procedures and the 45-centimetre thick walls make sure the waste is stored safely. With 70% of its energy from nuclear, France is Europe's biggest user. France is also among the leaders in the nuclear waste industry. It has developed a multi-layer system for dealing with its nuclear leftovers. At Soulaine-Douai, the storage units hold 90% of France's low to middle activity radioactive waste and are designed to last for at least 300 years. Environmentalists question this.
When you look at the waste that is referred to as short-life waste, it's still waste that will last for less than 300 years. If you look back 300 years ago, we were almost at the French Revolution, so we can only ask ourselves questions about waste management for such a long span.
Not far away near the town of Bieux and about 500 meters below the surface, France is laying the groundwork for a permanent deep earth repository. If approved, this is meant to be for all of France's longer life waste, mainly used nuclear fuel. Workers are carrying out tests, carving tunnels and seeking to prove that the long-term storage plan is the safest solution for future generations.
Whether we decide to go on with nuclear energy or not, we will need to find a solution for the management of that nuclear waste.
With oil and gas costs driving an energy price crisis across Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron has advocated for more use of nuclear power, a position shared by all candidates for next year's presidential election. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
Coming up, rare artifacts and masterpieces on display at the Fine Arts Fair in Paris. Among the highlights is an ancient Chinese bronze vase that's over 3,000 years old. And an extremely rare 20-carat blue diamond will be available for public viewing for the first time ever in New York City. That and more after the break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. This is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work.
The new MyPillow towels are exclusively made with 100% USA combed cotton with proprietary technology and with maximum absorbency. They dry you faster and are guaranteed to work.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow. And to thank you for all your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you get my dog beds for as low as $19.99. Or for a limited time, you can get my 6-piece towel sets, regularly $109.99, now only $39.99. The lowest price ever with your promo code.
Some artworks are million-dollar treasures, but they rarely see the light of day. But now the Fine Arts Fair at the Louvre is showcasing some rare artifacts and masterpieces. NTD's David Vives brings us there.
These astounding masterpieces are rarely seen by the public. Many of them spend their lives behind a lock or inside the homes of the world's wealthiest people, and they travel from one owner to another across the globe. The Fine Arts Fair at the Carrousel du Louvre in Paris is one of rare occasions to see them.
Most of the exhibitors focuses on collecting art pieces from a specific period of time, so each stand has its very own display. Hello, Mr. Perrin.
Hello. Good morning.
So where does those objects come from?
They're mainly Europeans from 1650 to 1850, so it's roughly 2 centuries.
One part of the art dealer's job is to find the origin of the art pieces. Sometimes that's an impossible task.
It's a marble piece, it's a bas-relief, it's 17th century. The subject is St. Catherine that is carried by the angels to Mount Sinai. We don't know who made it, and everybody has a different idea. So you know what, we're still looking for who the maker is, but anyway, the quality is amazing.
It could also take a lifetime for art dealers to find a masterpiece.
Those pieces, it was on the market 25 years ago, and now probably the collector died, the family is selling those pieces, and now it's with me, and tomorrow, who knows, So that's the story of art.
Some artworks are not only masterpieces, but also have a great story, like this zinc mermaid. The statue stood in a fountain in Berlin, Germany. During World War II, it was shot by soldiers, and the bullet holes made by the rifles are now part of the object's history. The artifact featured in the fair can be sold to collectors for tens of thousands to millions of dollars. This is calculated according to their state of conservation, scarcity, and history. Some pieces also stand as the last physical remnants from a period of time, like this 1,000-year-old wooden bodhisattva statue. Less than 5 of these remain in the world today, according to its owner.
This is Bodhisattva Kuan Yin. She is in a position called the Royal Resting. She chose not to become a Buddha and instead to guide people to nirvana. This is from the 12th century, so there are very, very few statues like these remaining. The statue was in a temple. Monks brought it to a cave in the mountains because there was a persecution going on, and it was found there maybe centuries later.
Some of the world's top collectors were at the venue, such as John Herring, who came from New York to see the show.
And so for me, the art profession of being a dealer is not just buying and selling and things like that. Every time I come in contact with an object, it is an emotional experience.
It might be hard to decide which artifact is the best one at the fair, but Herrings has his idea. This bronze vase that was probably used by a Chinese king 3,500 to 4,000 years ago is his favorite. Collectors have until Thursday, November 11th, to make their picks. After that, the art pieces will travel to their new homes, where they likely won't be seen by the public again. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
A rare blue diamond will be on public display for the first time ever at the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan, beginning tomorrow. The unique gemstone weighs over 20 carats and will be the centerpiece of an exhibit featuring diamonds from Botswana, a country in southern Africa. The gem is known not only for its size and deep blue color, but also its near flawless purity. The blue diamond is the largest of its kind ever found in Botswana and is on loan from the Akavango Diamond Company. The museum exhibit will have on display over 1,000 diamonds from Botswana and will also highlight the country's ethical mining program. And the London Zoo has a new resident, and it was in quite a hurry to arrive. The zoo's latest addition is none other than a baby sloth. The first baby pictures were released this morning. The tiny two-toed sloth was born October 24th. It's named Terry, after a long-standing zookeeper. Both baby and mother Marilyn are doing well. The baby's sex is currently unknown, and based on a news release, the newborn surprised zookeepers with its hasty arrival. The species is famed for taking its time. The sloth keeper, Marcel McKinley, explained at first there was no sign Marilyn was in labor, but less than an hour later, she spotted something that looked like a small arm. She then called the rest of the team over to confirm. McKinley says they arrived just in time to see her turn around in the tree and give the perfect view of her healthy newborn. And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can watch NTD.